Hello, Living Faith family. Jesse here, and I am recording this for those that cannot attend every single Saturday where we have a class on marriage. I'm doing that as a resource so you can still be a part of what we're doing, have conversations with us, and ultimately gain this information uh, as the rest of us do. And I know a lot of people work Saturdays and have different things going on, so here I am recording this for you all because I love you and I want you to be a part of this. And for future use, if people in the future want to come back to this. Also, just so you know, this book or these lessons we're working on are really just me reading through a book and creating some content for you from this book, and that is called Marriage: Six Gospel Commitments That Every Couple Needs to Make by Paul Tripp is his name. If you want to order it yourself and read it, I would highly recommend it. It's a great book so far, and today we are covering the first three chapters, things that I pulled, things that I saw. We'll see if we get into any personal things here and there. We did in class, but here and now, I'm just going to fly through the content as best as I can for you so that it is not a long video. So with saying that, let's jump to the first point that I'd like to make based on the first three chapters that I read with my wife is the breakthrough you need to know. This is the main emphasis that I would really highly suggest you understand is that you are a sinner and you, for lack of better words, are not as cool as you think you are. Okay? You're a sinner, you're broken, you're fallen, you are self interested, and you have expectations for your other person that you probably wouldn't have for yourself, and that isn't fair, right? You are a sinner, saved by grace. And one thing, when we went through our book, actually it's sitting right in front of me, the gospel centered community for kind of our gospel committed membership program, right? Was essentially, I hate saying those fancy, like, oh, membership, like it's this fancy thing. It's not. It's really just saying, hey, I believe in the vision of the elders and I'm in for the gospel centeredness of this. But we went through that, and that was an Acts 29 book. But it's very similar in that. And it essentially targets that sin is essentially antisocial. We don't really have time in and of ourselves to love our spouse in the purest sense of what love truly means, because we're too busy actually loving ourselves. That's what sin is about, myself. What we actually want is for our spouse to love us as much as we love ourselves. And if our spouse is willing to do that, we'll have a wonderful relationship. So we try to co opt our spouse into a willing submission to the plans and purposes of our own kingdom. And that came from Paul Tripp. And so the breakthrough that I think just right up front, this whole teaching is about is that you are a sinner, married to a sinner, living in a fallen world, in fallen bodies, with fallenness all around you. And just because you have a Christian marriage does not mean you're going to escape all the fallenness and all the sin and all the things going on around you. And we really want to keep that mirror ever so in front of us and focus on ourselves. One thing I do not want you to do while going through this class or going through this lesson is be thinking about, oh yeah, my spouse is bad at that. Oh yeah, my spouse is bad at that, right? We have to be looking at ourselves. Where am I failing, right? There's so many people that I know, they put all the blame onto one spouse and say, well, I've always been the good spouse. I've always been kind. I've always been prayerful. I've never been naggy. I've never been bad. I've never been this or that. But they, they've had their struggles. They've been sinners. They've been this. They've been that, right? That's not the heart that I want in this. What I want for you is to look at yourself and say, okay, where is my sin? Maybe your sin is just in that you're proud and don't recognize that forgiveness is something to cheerfully be given to your partner, right? So anyway, with that, what did you expect? Chapter number one was, what did you expect? You are a sinner, married to a sinner, and you likely have unrealistic expectations. And those unrealistic expectations always lead to disappointment, right? We read another book several years ago as a church that was saying something similar. It said, unsaid expectations always go unmet, right? The idea that you cannot have expectations in your mind without saying them because they'll go unmet. And then you get mad because they're not met, right? Everyone's guilty of that. You might think, oh, I hope the house is clean when I get home. You get home, it's not clean. And you're mad. Why? You didn't say anything. You didn't ask your wife, hey, could you make sure the dishes are done? Or your husband, hey, could you put the dishes back into the cupboards from the dishwasher, right? You didn't ask those things. And oftentimes we have unrealistic expectations. We want our husbands not only to work 45 hours a week, but we want them to be Superman. We want them to repair the house, to do the yard work. We want them to be the spiritual leader in our home, which they should be, all of those things. I get though. Those are healthy expectations. But then we also expect them to do this and that and this and that. And all of these things start to pile up, and we expect them to be Christ himself. And you're not married to Christ. And we're not. As much as you think your husband or your wife is a wonderful person, they are not Christ. They are a sinner saved by Christ. But that doesn't mean they're perfect, right? That doesn't mean they're complete. That doesn't mean they're fully mature. They are a sinner in need of grace, not just from the Lord, but also from their spouse and the people around them, from their children, from their families, from the church, from people within their social groups, right? From their work. Those are all realistic expectations. And the problem is a lot of women, they think, oh, I married Prince Charming. He is my Christ, as Christ loves the church. He's going to be like Christ to me. And we look to him for way too much satisfaction. And the same thing happens with men. We maybe think, oh, she's going to be the perfect housewife. She's going to cook and clean and take care of the children. And we get these fancy, expectations. And that's great. If that's what you guys are striving for and aiming for, great. I more power to you, right? But the reality is everything isn't perfect, right? In a perfect marriage, my wife and I would work, make enough money to provide. She'd be a stay-at-home mom. That's what she wants. She'd cook and clean. She's told me if I didn't have to work, I'd cook and clean. You'd never have to do it again, right? But the reality is I don't make enough. I don't make enough money to do that. So I have to have her work, unfortunately. That I wish I didn't. With everything in me, I wish I didn't. But I do, because I live in a fallen world and I don't make enough money. And we live in America, and America's created this terrible system where we can no longer thrive and survive, let alone thrive, on one person's income. We almost always have to have two nowadays. Most families in our church are the same way. Both people work. If you are in a situation where you can have a wife who stays home, blessing to you, right? That is amazing, and she wants to do that, and she wants to first keep her home, which is her priority, right? But anyway, I'm rambling. It doesn't matter. The reality is men expect more from their wives than really truly possible. Most of the time they expect this perfect little everything, and then women expect their men to be as Christ, and those are fine to a point, but you have to realize they're not Christ, they're not perfect, they're not complete, they are sinners. One of the first points that I really liked that Paul made was don't use the Bible unbiblically. He says we like to look at the Bible like it is meant to be, oh, here's a verse about marriage, let's pull it out and read it. Oh, very nice. Here's another verse about marriage, let's pull it out, read it. Very nice. And you can see how that is unbiblical, because really you have to read from cover to cover to fully understand the full story of what's happening. And marriage falls into the confines of the greater story of the Word of God, which is the fall of man, the brokenness of man, the redemption of God, what he offers to us, and how desperately we need him. Ephesians 5 says, do not be drunk with wine, which is debauchery, but rather be filled. And it's being kept filled as a wind in your sail. Being kept filled by the Holy Spirit, as a sail pulls a ship because of the wind, right? That is how we should live as Christians, by the Spirit. And after that, then here are what I expect from husbands and wives and children and servants, right? Those things cannot be accomplished unless first you're a Spirit-filled Christian, someone who is Spirit-filled by the wind of the Spirit, the breath of the Spirit. So we have to look at the entire Bible biblically. And the Bible tells us and shows us, in God's infinite grace, shows us over and over and over and over again how much we suck, right? Number 2, it says, please don't mess this up. Stop pretending your marriage will be perfect. Plan on problems. You don't have to plan on specific problems, but plan to be facing problems. And I know that is something my wife and I had to learn the hard way. We thought we're both Christian. We both want the right things. We both want to get married. We both want to save ourselves and have a blessed marriage by God, and because we saved ourselves, it's going to be perfect, and we're going to have kids eventually, we're going to be amazing parents, and yada yada yada. And then we learn the hard way, wait, I'm a sinner and she's a sinner, maybe less than me, but still a sinner. And we had to learn the hard way, wait, marriage takes patience and forgiveness and grace and frustration and maybe some angry nights and some fights and some brawls. And so I love that he points out, like, don't anticipate a perfect marriage. If it ends up that way, great, but anticipate that you will likely have problems. And how are you going to resolve your problems? Have a conversation. What will we do when we get into a fight? Now, before you're in a fight, right? Um, and just a continual reminder that we are in the already but not yet. We are already, right? All of these things, but not yet. And I think you've heard that terminology. And one of the quotes he pulled for this type of example was, "It is hard to live in the middle, but that is exactly where we live. We live in a world that is flawed and still terribly broken. Your marriage will still not escape its brokenness. Um, your marriage will not escape the flaws, right? So we have to keep that in mind. He talked about prepared spontaneity, a common theme, preparing for things you don't know coming. And I love this quote that I pulled. Our couples are always surprised, but by what they are facing. Yeah, we're always surprised. Why are we going through this? Why are we facing this? Yet, everything we face is often something the Bible predicted would happen to fallen people. Men sin, and this is my version. Men sin, women sin. Every marriage needs, and this is a word he used, and I loved this so much because this is something that I think our marriage has needed a lot. A regular rescue of grace. Potential problems can come with promised provision when faithful. So, a regular rescue of grace. How often has your life needed a regular rescue of grace? Where God comes in, and in his grace, he rescues you in spite of you, and marriage needs that. So much, right? I have needed regular rescues of grace my entire Christian walk. All of it, every single day, pretty much. And so if you are, that is something we paused as at Saturday, and we talked about, and we gave examples maybe in our own lives where we had a regular rescue of grace. But if you are willing to share, go ahead and share now, or just made a note of it, like a regular rescue of grace. That is something that you need to keep in mind, that your marriage will need that and will continue to need that because you are a fallen person married to a fallen person. But I love his solution, or kind of the work through the solution, is potential problems can come with promised provision. Potential problems, future problems that are likely, maybe, potentially going to occur, they can come with promised provision, right? The Lord will provide. He will rescue you in his grace when faithful. I love that. Biblical wisdom paradigms, right? And paradigms are mindsets when it comes to marriage. Number one, you are conducting your marriage in a fallen world. Pretty simple. But remember, this world we live in is fallen. End of story. We all face the same thing. Our marriages live in the middle of a world that does not function as God intended it. Somehow, some way, your marriage is touched by every single day by the brokenness of this world. End quote. And then the beauty of that is that God, and this is a paradigm to keep in mind, God is using the difficulties of the here and now, this fallen world you're in, to transform you. That is, to rescue you from yourself. And because he loves you, he will willingly interrupt or compromise your momentary happiness in order to accomplish one more step in the process of rescue and transformation, which is his goal for us, right? To rescue us and transform us, which he is unshakably committed to. And I love that. When you begin to get on God's same paradigm page, right, the mindset of God and what he is doing and his purposes, life not only makes sense, right? The things you face are not just irrational, make no sense troubles or bothers, but they are transforming tools, and you become more hopeful, right? If you looked at every single trouble or frustration or thing that brought frustration, I don't know what other word to use. I love the word frustration, but those types of things into your life as transformative tools to help shape you for God's glory, that changes things, right? I think so. And then another biblical paradigm, he hits this a lot in the first few chapters. This is a very common theme. We will get to kind of the solution or the resolve of this, right? But you are a sinner married to a sinner. Most of the problems, and this is something my wife and I paused and talked about because this has hit us both really hard. We're people that take things personally way too often. So most of the problems we face in marriage are not personal or intentional. Most often, your life is being affected by sin, weakness, and failure of the person you're living with. Now, pause and think about that. Most of your problems in marriage are not personal or intentional, meaning I'm not intentionally attacking my wife, or I'm not trying to make my wife feel personally victimized or like I'm personally going against her. Most often, I love this, your life, because I love my wife, right? I love my wife. I want nothing but the best for her. But does that mean I give her the best all of the time? Absolutely not. Does that mean I never wrong her? No, I do. Why? Because I'm fallen. I'm broken. I'm weak. I still struggle with sin, right? And so it says, most often your life is being affected by sin, weakness, and failure of the person you're with. Now, I want you to take a mirror for a moment there, though, and also realize that you are a fallen person affected by sin, weakness, and failure, and that you allow your sin, your weakness, your failure to come into your relationship as well, right? And now, what do you want when you're the one in sin? What do you want when you're the one struggling with your insecurities? What do you want when you're the one who's failing in the marriage? Right? And there's minimal failures, there's larger failures, there's some minor failures, right? But at the end of the day, none of us are perfect. And what do you want? Well, I only need a little forgiveness, so I'm only going to provide a little forgiveness. Right? Well, that seems unbiblical based on some parables that Christ gave us, right? No, we all need regular rescues of grace. And so if you want to be forgiven when you sin or fall short or fail in your own personal walk with Jesus, and your husband or wife forgives you, how much more so should you forgive them, right? Often in these God-given moments of ministry, I love this, love this, love this, rather than serving God's purpose, right? So he calls these moments when your spouse, your partner is caught in some kind of sin, weakness, or failure of their flesh. He calls these God-given moments of serving God's purpose. Yet, what we do instead is we get angry. We take it personal. Somehow our spouse is in the way of what we want, right? What is it we want? Why is it that that thing is bothering you? Why are you mad that they didn't do the dishes? Does that affect God's kingdom? I mean, sure, my wife and I, she wants me to help with the dishes more. I know that, and I need to be better, right? It's just me being distracted and or lazy. I don't know. And I laugh, but seriously, like, she wants me to do dishes, and you think about those things, and it's like, okay, but at the same time, we can't get too angry because that really doesn't impact the kingdom of God. It really doesn't. So you have to ask yourself, why am I angry? Is it because of what I want? Or is it because of what God wants? Or is it because of what, right? And those are things we have to keep in mind. We personalize these things, never meant to be personal. You're living with a sinner, you will experience sin. Likely daily, likely often. So when you experience sin, are you human? Or are you spirit-filled? Are you for him or for her? Or are you against her or against him? Are you a friend or a foe? Adversarial responses are detrimental. And so what I mean is, when you are with your partner, your spouse, your loved one, and they sin, they fall short, they give into their flesh, whatever, are you a friend who comes alongside to encourage? In whatever way that you know them better than I do, all right? Are you a friend to encourage them in their journey with Christ, to offer grace, help, advice, love? Or are you angry? Do you blame them? Are you a foe? Are you adversarial in the way things are? Right? Those are important questions for you to wrestle through as you struggle in your marriage. Are you a friend or a foe? Are you for them or are you against them? Right? The kindness of God to show us Judas, to show us Cain. He graciously shows us this truth so we are forced to see the real world. When you read the entire Bible for what it is, you realize we live in a pretty fallen world, right? Not just some fantasy, everything's lovey-dovey, good all the time, never any evil, right? That's not what the world gives us. So when we apply what God wants for marriages versus the world we live in, we also understand, hey, this is what we're desiring. But based on the world we live in, we know that there's going to be turmoil, there's going to be trials, there's going to be tribulations, there's going to be tests, right? Um, and the beautiful thing is, what is God's solution for those things? Reach out for my help, fall back into my spirit, cling to Christ. Um, we serve a God who is faithful, powerful, and willing. Um, will you continue when marriage isn't always, or marriage isn't not always, marriage isn't the way it was meant to be? And what he means by that is, you often hear, I feel like I've seen it in movies, but it's like, well, this isn't the way it was meant to be. He isn't the man I thought he was going to be, right? Marriage can be rooted in romance, because this can be a seasonal and fickle thing, but rather it needs to be rooted in worship, because romance is fickle and it could be seasonal. And what he means by worship is obviously the lifestyle. And I pulled this quote from Paul as well. Being a worshiper means you attach your identity, your meaning, and your purpose. Right? I want you to hopefully write that down. Being a worshiper means you attach your identity, your meaning, and your purpose to Christ. Right? You either get things vertically or you look to get them horizontally. Right? And I've read 3 books in the past little while that have all talked about that. True Communion, Jerry Bridges, this book, Marriage, and then the Gospel-Centered Community. They all talk about vertical and horizontal and the importance of both. And God made us for both, verticals to God, horizontals with your community. But it says you either get things vertically, meaning who is your source? You either get things from God, or you'll look to get them horizontally from your community, maybe your spouse, maybe your children, maybe your friends, maybe your family, right? And then this insight has everything to do with how a marriage becomes what it is. No marriage will be unaffected when the people in the marriage are seeking to get from the creation what they were meant to receive from the Creator. So who is your source? Is it the Creator, which is what it's meant to be, or is it the creation, right? Something that I had to learn the hard way was, I was like, oh, my love tank, oh, my love tank, oh, the 5 love languages, oh, the love tank. Well, my love tank isn't full. My love tank isn't full, I'm mad. My love tank is full, that's why I'm bitter. My love tank isn't full, that's why I'm frustrated. My love tank isn't full, that's why I am the way I am right now. That's why I'm in a bad mood right now, right? That's a terrible mindset. Yeah, I know that some of you probably have wrestled with that. Hopefully, maybe I'm alone. But the reality is, I was looking to the creation to fill my love tank. I thought it was her duty, her responsibility to fill my love tank. It's not. I mean, Lord knows it's a blessing, but marriage is not for the purpose of filling your love tank and happiness and, oh, we're good and Gucci, right? Marriage is meant to build God's kingdom, to work together for Christ, for the Lord, to work together in sanctification, to grow together. And when you keep your mindset on yourself and your kingdom and what you want, your marriage is doomed to fail, right? My wife and I are able to be together because we have the same goals. We want to build God's kingdom. We want to have children under the glory of God. We want to worship Him together. We want to grow in sanctification together. We are about His kingdom. And that's why I love John MacArthur's dating strategy. It's like, hey, line up. Do you want to build God's kingdom? Do you want to have children? Do you want to raise them under the glory of God? I want to pair you all up. Get married. There's no reason it won't work if you have the same goals in life. And that's the same thing. I'm getting frustrated with this teenage modern version of dating. Like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite movie? Right? Those are stupid questions. Who cares? I'm just being serious. Who cares? What do you want to do with your life? Oh, you want to serve your own kingdom and live for yourself? Get rich and die trying? Okay, not interested. Oh, you want to worship God, grow in our sanctification, bring glory to His kingdom, have children together, always go to church, right? Those types of things. Those are important questions to be asking. And yet Christians be like, oh, you're a Christian, you go to church? Cool. What's your favorite color? That's all they care about. Do you go to church? You're a Christian? Cool. What's next? Right? We have to attach our identity, right? Everything we are to Christ, our meaning to Christ, our purpose to Christ, and our source is Christ. Right? So my love tank is not filled by my wife, believe it or not. Trust me, I have to rid myself of that thought completely and utterly, because fleshly Jesse, who has his love tank filled by people around him, sucks. Right? The only Jesse that's even worth a rat's, just throwing it out there, right? The only Jesse that's worth anything is the Jesse that is connected to the vine, abiding in Christ, abiding in his love. My love tank is full because he first loved me. I love because he first loved, right? I don't love because my life loved me or loves me. I love because he loved. That is my source. That is my identity. That is my meaning. That is my purpose. And then I come to my wife, and rather than looking at her as someone who isn't loving me the way I think she should be loving me, I say, I love you. Not because you first loved me, Cecilia, but because he first loved me. And you and I together will love him, right? So the question is, do you rely on people to meet your needs before Christ? Who fills your love tank? We need to be vertically fixated, right? This is a quote from Paul again. I become more and more persuaded I typoed it. I become more and more persuaded that marriages are fixed vertically before they are ever fixed horizontally. Meaning, if you're struggling with your marriage, or your marriage is on the rocks, right, or if it's broken or whatever, he says marriages are always fixed vertically, and I stand in agreement with what he's saying. Vertical fellowship, fellowship with the Father, fellowship with Christ, fellowship with the Spirit, that is fixed first, far and before ever it's fixed horizontally. We have to deal with what is driving us before we ever deal with how we are reacting to each other. What is driving you? Is it Christ? Is it the Spirit? Or is it yourself? Is it your kingdom? Is it your family? Is it your spouse? Okay, it is only when I live in a celebratory and restful worship of God that I am able not to take myself too seriously, and I am free to serve and celebrate another. I love this. Celebratory, restful worship of God. Then I can take myself and my needs and my wants and my frustrations and my troubles. I don't take them that seriously. And I'm free. I feel free to serve and celebrate one another. So do you take yourself too seriously? Do you take your kingdom, what you want, your desires too seriously? Right? Or are you first focused on his kingdom, his desires? Are you connected to the vine? Are you vertically communing before horizontally? Okay, a gut punch. The fact that no one gives grace better than someone who is convinced that he needs it as well. So if you struggle to forgive, it's because you do not properly see how much you've been forgiven. Cut and dry, biblical, to the point. So the question is, are you forgiven? Because if you are a forgiving person, it's because you know you have been forgiven much. And we have to keep that same thing in the marriage. I love the fact, I don't love this is me being sarcastic. I have to clarify. I love the fact that some marriages, keep tally. Oh, you're worse than me. You've done worse sins than me. You've messed up more than me. The wife or the husband that keeps record of wrongs of their spouse, that marriage is doomed to fail. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm serious. I'm like dead serious right now. If you are of the mindset that you need to keep track of who's been the better spouse and who's done more wrong in the past, you're not forgiving them. You're resentful and you need to forgive them. And if you don't, you will destroy your marriage. You will, absolutely. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Heaven forbid you keep a record of wrongs, right? Isn't the whole thing of what God and Christ have wrestled with is about forgiving those who ask for forgiveness, those in the brotherhood, those in the familial relations of Christ, right? I'm not talking about the world, right? I'm not talking about that. That's a theological side point that we don't have to get into right now. But what I am talking about is your spouse. If they're a Christian and they have asked for forgiveness and they have repented, have you forgiven them? Truly, right? The last section here, and there's only a couple more slides, but the last section here is whose kingdom? And I've already mentioned this briefly, but whose kingdom are you fighting for? Your own kingdom or God's kingdom, right? Your own family brand or the brand of Christ, right? And this is one of my favorite quotes, and the one that I've mentioned not just within marriage, but it's also the same within church. It is when attraction wanes, flaws show, and the dream dies, that real love has its best opportunity to germinate and to grow, right? Infatuation is when you see no flaws, you're fully attracted, you have so many dreams, but when all of that dies, just then, it's not when love is occurring. It is just then when real love has the opportunity to germinate and become something real, right? I thought when I married my wife, we weren't in the infatuation puppy love stage because we've been dating for 3 years. You know, I think my wife and I would both say that we have had attractions wane and flaw shows and frustrations occur. And because of those things, we've allowed for true, genuine, verb like love to take place. And now we're more in love than ever. And I pray we're more in love than ever next year and more in love than ever the year after that. But I also have to anticipate we might have hardships here and there. But those are opportunities. Those are God given moments to provide grace, to provide love, to show we love one another, to forgive one another, to work toward resolve, to grow. Right? This is not defeat. This is an opportunity to edit the small space of the kingdom of self and to begin to enjoy the beauty and benefits of the kingdom of God. What appears to be life may not be love. What appears to be love may not be love. And even God reveals that. It is a good thing. God will rescue you from yourself. So my concluding thoughts for this week is kind of in this last section here. Whose kingdom shapes your marriage? Whose kingdom defines your dreams? What truly makes you happy? What makes you angry? What is it that you want your marriage, for your marriage, so badly to be? Are you focused on Christ? Is He your source? Are you gospel-centered? Is Christ in the middle? The reality is we all struggle with that. We all say that, and we all say, oh, 3-chord strand is not easily broken. It's true. We know that it's true. But how often are we actually keeping that as the plan and purpose for our marriage? So we're saying that I think we did pretty good on time. I don't know how long it went, but I think we did well. And I just want you to know that this will be, I think a lot of times when we go over marriage things or husband things or wife things, there's this mantra out there, maybe not here, maybe in Africa, right? But there's this idea out there that, and I saw just today, about how like Mother's Day comes, women, you're doing such a good job. Wives, oh, you're amazing, you're wonderful. Wives, great. Father's Day, you suck. What are you doing? Why can't you be better? I'm not under that impression, actually. I'm just not. Usually it's marriages. Oh, great. Marriages are awesome. Right? For our church and our community, I want great marriages. I want great family units. I desire that wholeheartedly. I pray for that. I yearn for that, right? And but it takes work to get there. It takes gospel focus. It takes a biblical mindset. It takes Christ being involved in every aspect of your marriage. And the reality is, I think we have marriages that have so much potential. But the reality is we need husbands to step up and lead, and to lead strong, and to lead in spiritual things, to pray, and to read the word, and to grow theologically, and to be the man that they are called to be within their household. Heaven forbid the man you're supposed to be in ministry. I mean, obviously that, but first and foremost, you have to serve in the ministry of your home. You can't serve in any other ministry if you're not first taking care of the ministry of the home. That's biblical, right? And for women, it's the same thing. We need to learn to be better stewards of respecting our husbands, of cherishing what they do for us, like I even was thinking about it, and I talked to some of the guys in our church about it. I was like, the call of men is to protect and provide for their families. The men in this church do a pretty good job of providing and protecting, I would say. Responsibility of the woman, right? To love and submit. Are we good at that? Right? And so just me being real. I know it's not stereotypical because I'm a male pastor. A male pastor shouldn't call out the women. But it's the reality is I think the men are doing a good job protecting and providing. Right? But are the women doing a good job of respecting and submitting? And I know, oh my husband's got to love me for me to respect him. No, we went over this already. At least in Adam Loves Eve we did, right? It's like the mirror. in spite, and we went through in Ephesians 5 last year, in spite of the fact that my husband is not loving me the way I think he needs to love me, I will still respect him because I have the Spirit within me, and I am doing this not for my husband, but for Christ, because he has asked me to. Husbands, the same way. Your wife may not be respecting you. I will love her in spite of her failures, in spite of her falling, in spite of her shortcomings. I will love her wholeheartedly, not just because I want to, not just because I need to, but because Christ, my King, my Lord, my Savior, my everything, he asks me to love her as he loves his church. Right? So those are things to keep in mind as we move forward. I think that is all I have for you guys today. So I'm going to end this here at 35 minutes. You got out a lot quicker than the Saturday morning cruise. So please, if you watch this, comment. If you watch this, text me. If you watch this, let me know. So I know you're with us. You're part of this journey, because it will be a good one as we grow our marriages toward a gospel centeredness, toward a kingdom focus, toward a love and forgiveness trajectory. And I'm very, very excited for what it brings for us. I pray for you and your families. God bless.